transparency. I was out too late last night. Transparency with all the variety of pipeline safety information that's available. One of the things PHMSA has done really well over the past 10 years is really stepping up and providing a whole lot more information available. When we got involved in this business 10 or 13 years ago, you couldn't find incident data, you certainly couldn't find enforcement data, inspection data, the maps weren't up yet. All of that stuff is now online, and as they're struggling with making that easier for people to find, companies are starting to step up too. So the next session is a little bit, we ran into people always want to know, do I live near a pipeline? And we've run into a system that Enterprise put up, and some other companies like Spectra, and you heard from Marathon yesterday how they're putting county level maps up. But Enterprise Products put up a map viewer that I heard a presentation about how that has helped kind of their public awareness program blossom. I hope I'm getting it right. And today, to talk about that, we had a little change on the agenda because Mike McLaughlin, who was going to originally do it, got assigned to do something else these few days. So Amber Pappas, who's the Senior Public Awareness Coordinator for Enterprise Product, is going to describe their efforts a little bit. Amber.
Thank you, Carl, and I wanted to thank you and your staff and the members of the Pipeline Safety Trust who put this conference together. I know a lot of hard work and time and effort goes into putting these conferences on, and I'm personally happy to be here. I've been coming, I believe this is the 5th or 6th year that I've been coming, and when I first got into the pipeline industry, one of the first meetings that they sent me to was this meeting. So I got initiated right away and very quickly. So I always consider this meeting one of the most important meetings that I want to attend every year. And I'm really happy today to be here to talk about one of our programs, as Carl mentioned to you, that's been getting a little bit of attention lately. It is our Pipeline Viewer Tool. And this program was created in an effort to respond to some requests and things that we were seeing within our own public awareness plan program. But before I get into the specifics of the Pipeline Viewer Tool, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Enterprise Products. We have quite an extensive footprint, as you can see, and I don't have my glasses on, but we have 50,600 miles of natural gas liquid, crude, refined products, and petrochemical pipelines in 27 states throughout the United States. As far as our storage capacity, our portfolio includes 190 million barrels of natural gas liquids, refined products, and crude oil. So we have storage capacity for that much, as well as 14 billion cubic feet of natural gas storage capacity. In addition to that, our portfolio also includes natural gas processing plants, natural gas liquids, and propylene fractionators, offshore hub platforms. We've got natural gas liquid import-export terminals, and also other refining facilities throughout the United States. So I just really wanted to give you just a real quick background on our company. As you can see, we do have quite an extensive footprint, which does pose challenges to communicating with various stakeholders and communicating specific information, as you can see, to various stakeholders that live and work along our pipeline. Each year, we send out over 3 million pieces of mail to stakeholders that live and work along our pipeline. And a good majority of those comments that we would get back were people saying exactly the same thing that Carl just mentioned, as, I got this brochure in the mail, where's this pipeline that you're talking about? What kind of products are in this pipeline? Tell me a little bit more about your pipeline and your products. And so, that was one of the reasons that led us to look into different ways that we could communicate more specific information. Another factor that led to the creation of this came in the form of a warning letter from PHMSA after an inspection that we had on our Chinchula pipeline. And this pipeline extends from Alabama to Mississippi. And in that warning letter, we were told that while our brochure contained good information, it did not contain specific information on the Chinchula pipeline. So, there were a lot of things that led us to look into different ways that we could address these concerns. One immediate thing that we did was, at the time of that PHMSA inspection, we only had one brochure that we were sending to all of our stakeholder audiences. We realized very soon after that we needed to break out those brochures and make them tailor-made specifically for different stakeholder audiences, but we also needed to break those out according to the type of operating companies that we had, and that would be Enterprise Products, which operates gas and liquid products, Enterprise Crude, as well as Dixie Pipeline. So we went from one brochure to 12 brochures. That was one of the immediate things that we did to address that. The other thing that we did was, we looked at, the challenge then turned to, well, how can you provide product-specific information, pipeline location information? How can you do that when you're talking about 3-4 different operating companies? And that is really how we came to the concept of the pipeline viewer tool. Now, I would love to stand here and take credit for this pipeline viewer tool because I love to be involved with great things like that, but I can't unfortunately do that because that credit has to go to Mike McLaughlin. He's our manager of damage prevention and public awareness, and I know that he's really upset that he wasn't able to be here today to talk with you guys about this, but I'm more than happy to step in and talk about it. So really, how did this process, come together? How did it all get started? It took about 5 months from the time that the general idea was conceived until it was actually implemented. It went live, the Pipeline Viewer Tool went live in December of 2011, and so it's been active for almost a year now. We're almost right at a year. But basically, the Pipeline Viewer Tool was built using Bing Maps. And in order to do this, we added Bing Maps, I can't say that word quickly. We added Bing Maps to our existing licensing agreement with Microsoft. And then once that was in place, our IT group added a new page to our website, and then they created kind of an interface between our web server, our internal pods database, and the Bing Map server. So really what all that really means is they created a place on our website where all of these different applications could communicate with one another. So this tool was designed, when you're dealing with the public and you're dealing with various stakeholder audiences, we designed this tool to be very user-friendly. And when Mike understands all the logistics behind this and the mechanics, but I didn't really understand how it all worked. And so I made the big mistake of calling our IT department, and I said, can you guys explain to me, how does this work? That was mistake number one. Mistake number two was the email that I got trying to decipher it, but it was so funny that I had to just I'm going to read it for you, but I generally don't ever read from my presentation what I've put here, but I'm going to read it for you here because I just love this. This is what they told me. When an alphanumeric street address is entered into the web form, a SOAP request is issued to the Microsoft Bing Map server requesting street map data. Then the web form uses AJAX protocol to submit an SQL query to the PODS database requesting geolocation data adjacent to the alphanumeric address submitted. All I could hear was blah, blah, blah. I could not understand what that was. It was very confusing to me. And if my IT department is listening today, I love you guys. You're great. You're gurus. But for me, I personally couldn't understand that. So I really tried not to make things very complicated for you or complicated for me. So what I thought I would just do is, at first we were going to do a live demo, but I didn't want to deal with all that because I'm not a techo person. But I did pull some pages for you from our Pipeline Viewer tool, and I've got a really great explanation for you for how it works. So this is what happens, okay? So you go to our server or to our web page, and I'll tell you guys in a minute where to get to it, but how to get to it. But you go there and you see where it says enter your address. You just type in an address, city with a comma, city, state, zip if you like, and you hit that little tab that says map address, and boom, it will pull up all the information that you need to know. So basically what happens is when you type in an address, either one of two things were going to happen. Either you're going to have pipelines within that 1 mile buffer of that address that you type in, or you're not. And so let me see. There are a couple of things that I did want to tell you before I go on to the next slide. there are some logistical things that we wanted people to understand. This pipeline viewer tool is not intended for people to, if you have an excavation project or, you're not, the idea of this project, of this tool is not to use this if you're wanting to know where the pipelines are located and you want to dig in your ground. We say this very clearly on the main page, that it's not intended for that use, and we encourage people to call 811 before they dig. The other thing that's very important is we ask people to turn off their pop-up blockers, because there are various messages that pop up on the screen. So I'm going to go on here and show you what I did. I used the address for the Hotel Montillon here. And I typed it in, and I'm just seeing here on the screen that I didn't pull the screen quite far down enough for you to see. But what happens when you type in an address, and if there are no assets, no pipeline, no enterprise products pipelines, and when I say that, I mean collectively enterprise products, gas or liquids, enterprise crude, or Dixie pipeline, and I mean that collectively when I say this. If there are no enterprise products assets located within that 1 mile buffer, then the screen will come up and you'll notice there is a house that indicates the address that you have entered. And so that house is the center point, and a 1 mile buffer is drawn around that house, and you can tell if there are any assets that are located within that 1 mile buffer. In this case, there were none, and you will get this pop-up message, and that's why we want people to turn off their pop-up blockers. And it explains to them that there are no assets in there. However, we encourage people to go to the National Pipeline Mapping System website, where other pipeline operator assets are located. And so, we really want to stress to people that these are really only talking about our enterprise products assets. So if you type in an address and there are assets located within that 1 mile buffer, then what you'll get is something very similar to this screen. In this case, I chose an address where I knew there were several pipelines in an area. And what you see here is the 1 mile buffer around. The house is located in the middle. And then there are green lines that indicate any of the enterprise products assets that are in that area. Now, we have numbered those pipelines. You'll notice there are numbers on there, and I'll tell you why those numbers are there in a minute. But at least we're trying to identify where these assets are and help people a little bit more better identify them. Another thing that I wanted to mention is GPS coordinates, lat-long coordinates, can also be entered into this, so it works that way as well. And if any of you have smartphones, which I know many of you do, it can be accessed through smartphones as well. So if you do pull up, and if you happen to pull up and there are assets within that 1 mile buffer, you can scroll down the screen, and the users are able to see, based on the numbers we've coordinated, I mentioned the numbers earlier, you can look at the number and it will tell you more specific information about who the operator is, the line name, it's got pipe diameter, and it also has the type of product that is running in, that's being transported through that pipeline. And then scrolling further down the page, we added a little bit more information about the products. So this really answers the question of what are the types of products, where is the pipeline located, and we even included the types of hazards that are associated with those products. So this tool was really our answer and our response to being able to provide more specific information to our stakeholders about where our pipelines are located, what's in them, the size, and as well as other information that they might want to know about the pipeline and its products. And on a final note here, what I did was I talked to our IT guys again, which I love, you guys, and I asked them to give me some Google Analytics on the Pipeline Viewer website. I wanted to share with you all what the latest statistics were for just specifically the Pipeline Viewer page. I'm in the middle of doing an assessment on our assets, and I do look at many things, and one of the things I look at are trends to our website, to all of the website, but I pulled this up for you specifically, and there's a couple of important things I wanted to share with you. What I've noticed actually in my assessment of the entire Enterprise Products website is that on the pipeline safety portion of our website, which is where our Pipeline Viewer tool is located, the Pipeline Viewer tool is the single most frequently visited page on our website, and I was very excited to see that. I mean, there are very other important things on our website, but this tool was really a testament that the fact that it was the most highly used page on our website was a testament to the success of why we created it, and it was really more validation for us that encouraged us. We had a total of 10,615 page views on the Pipeline Viewer page from, I asked him to run December 1st, 2011, which was when it went live, to October 31st, 2012. That averages out to about 965 page views a month. I mean, it's not eBay or something like that, but, you know, we get quite a few hits for us, considering. We noticed that there's a high percentage, the highest percentage of page views came right in January. While I can't speculate as to exactly why that happens, I can sort of say that I think that it has to do with the timing of our mailing. Our mailing dropped in November of 2011, and so I think after the holidays, people got through. It was hopefully thinking that maybe our brochure was still laying around there, and they decided they would look at it. But an interesting thing to note is the Pipeline Viewer website address and information about it was in our brochure last year. So we know that people, that was one of the only few ways at the time that they could get the address and look at it. So we know that they were looking at our brochures. We're able to at least tie that back. Another thing that's important to note here is that we know how many people came in and looked at our the Pipeline Viewer page, and we know how many people at least were not successful in locating an address using the Pipeline Viewer tool. We don't know how many people were successful at it. That's an issue that I identified in my analysis, and I've asked IT, and I'm working with them right now to try and write in some code into the program to let us know. I wanted to know how many people were successful, and we can't track a lot more information other than that due to, you know, regulations and things like that. But I would like to know how many people are actually successful in locating assets within a mile buffer. But you know, as you can see, I think that's about all I have to talk about today on the Pipeline Viewer tool. But as I said earlier, it was really our response to being able to provide more specific information about our line location, our products, the operating company, and other information that people might want to know about our products in our pipeline. So, Carl, I think that's all I have.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.